Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakach Badash, the Bond City Apostles and Elders, Great Millstone. Shalom to the Akim teaching this. Shalom to the Akim teaching this word throughout the four corners. In true sincerity, I'm back with another lesson. Through the Spirit, probably Ba'ashem, Shalom, Low, and be edifying us to the elect. Topic of this lesson. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be, basically Esau knows, this shit is, Esau knows his kingdom is finished. Alright. Really laying back on my last lesson. It's just been on my spirit heavy. Because, Esau knows this place is done. He knows that, captivity is coming. He knows it, right? Because, when you hear these devils talk like Donald Trump, he talks about, he don't want World War III to happen. We don't want it to happen. World War III is not going to happen, right? But, deep down, they know what's going to happen, right? Because the scriptures, tell of, and, they see us, all right, talking about, World War III happiness, the Lord Yahweh Shai bringing it, causing these nations to go, back and forth, for there to be tension amongst the nation. It's the Lord doing it. All right. What else? He's, not even too long ago, I believe it was his last presidency, right? Or this one, I believe his last presidency or this one. But, remember when he said, you're the prophets, the prophets, all right. The prophets are talking about the end. I'm butchering it. I believe he mentioned World War III. All right. The prophets, the prophets are talking about the end, etc. I'm butchering it, Salakia. But they know, they're watching, or they're in tune. All right, and, of course they're in tune because this truth has been hid, for a period of time. They had their they're building up, their rebirth of this revised Roman system. And they thought that, they will never see an end. They will never see sorrow, right? But, as we get closer and closer to the day of the Lord, you can see this place slowly deteriorating, flushing down the drain. All right, the spirits of the people, is getting worse. The wickedness is increasing. All right, what else? All right, your condition of living is, getting harder. All right, what I said, the wickedness is increasing. If I didn't say that already. All right, again, tensions with the nations they're rising. There's more, chariot sightings and etc. Like I mentioned in the last lesson. All right, so this place is through. All right, and these nations and Esau Edom, he's scared, right? He's scared. All right, because why would you not want World War III to happen? You supposedly are the strongest nation. Nobody can take you down. They're, why don't you want World War III to happen? Because they know. All right. That World War III is not going to be a normal war. That war is going to be a war of the nations and really a war against Yahweh Shai. And they know they're not going to win. Okay? They know they're not going to win. And they know once Yahweh Shai takes them down, they know what's next. Captivity. Slavery. Okay? Slavery. All right? Okay? Let me get Isaiah 14. All right? It's only right. Because, they done brought us here, on slave ships. Had their way with us. All right, now when it's their time to give up the seat or get past the controller, all right, they don't want to pass it like that one badass jit, right? That one badass child, that one badass kid that's on the system, on the game if you have siblings, right? That one person that just always want to stay playing, never want to pass the controller. All right, that's Esau Edom. All right, it's Isaiah 14 and 21. It says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. So, I prepare slaughter for the iniquity of their fathers, right? So, because you have these, Edomites, that they be coming up, to the camps, asking questions, or you may hear them say, "Oh, I didn't do that. That was my forefathers," right? And be like, why would we go into captivity? We didn't do nothing to y'all, right? But you are your forefathers coming back, and you have crimes to pay. All right, the whole nation of, Edom, I have a tab, to pay, okay, because of the crimes, against the nation of Israel and the crimes against humanity, right? And Yahweh Shai is the judge, okay? All right, and they know, all right, they know they done did some fucked up shit, and they know they don't want to pay for it. All right, they know, they shit stink. It's like here. All right, they know they done ran up the bill. They know they done caused, all types of, wickedness throughout the earth. Even Trump himself said it. Shit, go back to Trump. He said, when they asked him do they think he going to heaven, he was like basically saying no. He said he'll be surprised if he make it. So these devils know they off. All right, that's why they know that. That's why they know that their kingdom is gonna fall. All right, even though they're trying to, push forth and speed up their new world order. All right, all of it will come to naught. All right, this is Job 14:5. It says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass." So there's a certain date, all right, or expiration date, like how you got the expiration on milk. All right, Esau's kingdom, all right, has an expiration date, man, and this shit spoiling. All right, it's spoiling. All right, and it's spoiled, really, and it's gonna be spoiled. All right. All right, there's a day, all right, a minute, a second, where the Lord's gonna be like, that's it. All right, this kingdom is done. All right, once that last, warhead drop, all right, that's gonna be the end. All right, of this kingdom. There's not gonna be him, rising up from the ashes like a phoenix. All that shit is, over with. That's just their, the heathen imagining a vain thing. All right. I want to get Job 5. Let's start at 12. It says he disappointed the devices of the crafty. Who is the crafty? Esau, Edom. He's the most craftiest devil, all right, to date. All right. It says so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So the Lord's going to disappoint him so that he won't be able to fulfill his new world order. Right. And they don't want to hear these words that their new world order is not going to come to pass, because they've been planning this for decades. All right, having this one world government under this MOTB system, having everybody chipped up. All right, they've been planning it for years. Lord willing to happen, within, Trump's administration. Lord willing to happen this year. All right, or next year. All right, but we want it to happen as soon as possible. Okay, with this devil, when shit hit the fan. All right, and when he thinks he's go, fill his belly. It says, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. Right, so again, all right, Esau Edom will not be able to perform, all right, his new world order. All right, no matter how much planning was done in the past, no matter how much, AI they're gonna try to use, it won't, come to pass. Because in this devil's mindset, his mindset is that, again, his kingdom will never fall. He will continue to oppress the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, and ultimately be like a god on earth. All right, skipping down to Shalakia. It's not 14. Probably 20 and 21. Job 20, 23. I'm going to start at 22. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. So, there you go again. All right. Esau, Edom. All right, you listening? All right, this new world, one world government. All right, merging man with machine. All this wickedness that you better plan for the future, it will not come to pass. All right, you will receive your judgment. It says, when he's about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So, when this devil thinks he's about to, fulfill his new world order, all right, the Lord basically go yank the blanket, all right, off the table. All right, once he's about to get a taste of it, the Lord go basically yank the blanket, or yank the yank the sheet, all right, off the table, or yank the cloth off the table. All right. All right, and why would the Lord let him, fulfill, his new world order anyway? Your house shall need to rule. All right, the scriptures talk about that profitable in Yahushai. How can Yahushai rule if, this devil, stays in power, right? For the good to come, the evil must get taken out of the way. All right, like it's saying Esdras. Okay. All right, this is what he's scared of. He's scared that he won't be able to accomplish, his plan, because he know his time is short, right? Why do you think he rolling upon Jake? There's Revelation 12:12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. It says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. So, he know the time is short. That's why he's moving sloppy. All right, he's being exposed every day. You got the thing with now with the Epstein files. Trump. The information came out. Trump and homeboy was buddies and shit. All right, so they gotta hurry this shit up, because, he can only keep up the act of being a not good guy, for so long. He's constantly being exposed. All right, people are coming against Amalek. Things that you never thought would happen. People are speaking against Amalek, how they control everything behind the scenes and shit like that. How, all the bad things that happen, is Amalek behind it, is Esau Edom behind it, and America is just funding it. Right? You never heard something like that before 10, 20 years ago, right? Just showing you how the Lord is, making him bear. All right, because the time is short. He's running out of time. All right, it's also because the prophets, we out there teaching the word, exposing him. All right, that spirit is in the earth, or his devil's being exposed. All right, his kingdom is falling, economically, all right, spiritually. And next is gonna be physically with them warheads. All right. All right, so we're breaking down the scripture. It says the devil shall come down upon you, having a wrath, because he know that he had but a short time. So, him having a short time, he's gonna roll down, ultimately to us. Right? He's coming down on Jake, but it's also gonna come down to us as well. All right. And however this situation might play out, whether the Lord, deliver us, via, spiritual power, or we end up being in a concentration camp, all right, we hope for good, because we know, all right, the end, or excuse me, better is the end of a thing. Right? It may look gloomy, but it's really getting just brighter and brighter, for the elect, Lord will be part of that number. All right, this is what we've been waiting for. We in the last days. We in the last day. This is the end of this shit, right? We're not, in the times where the apostles, all right, in Yahushai's time, 2,000 years ago, they was asking when is it gonna be. We're not living in those days. We actually in it, and we at the last few minutes, I should say seconds, I have this place coming down, and us, witnessing the fall of our enemy. So we gotta, rejoice and be up in spirit and be, on fire for the Lord. Speaking to myself first and foremost, and continue to give praises, because now is not the time, to be thinking about, bullshit, or let bullshit get to you. All right. You know what you got to do. We all know what we got to do. All right. This shit is over with. Right. Lord done set up this cruel world, this cruel Lord DJ Trump, to push forward this new world order. All right, this is what we've been waiting for. All right, we're not fearful. All right, we rejoice. All right, that we know the names Yahweh Shem Yahshua, we know that, and we know what time we in. Right? It's Isaiah 33:6. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is his treasure. So because we have this wisdom and knowledge, all right, we're stable mentally and spiritually. We're stable. All right. Because without this information, it would have been like Jake. Like when them snap benefits was cutting off. Jake was ready to loot and get carnal with it. But because we have this wisdom and knowledge, we won't panic. And even when it gets worse, to just the snap benefits getting cut off, when it comes to hyperinflation, when food prices start going up, or loaf of bread being a day's pay, like it says in Revelation 6, we won't worry, because now we know that things is getting things is moving according to the Lord's plan, to the prophecies. All right, we live in a time of great prophecies coming to pass. All right, that may be another lesson. You live in a time of great prophecies coming to pass. All right. you know. And but that alone is lesson was edifying. I don't give our praises to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Kakodash, and the honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, and Shalom to the Akim, teaching his word, thought the four corners, interest, sincerity, Akim was out of here, Shalom.